everybody. I'm Karen Kopp, Chief Door Opener, and I'm here with the incredible Jack Daly, and this is Sales B12, the 10-minute dose of sales that you don't want to miss. Today, we're here talking about the metrics that you need to watch for the best sales effectiveness. And this is something, Jack, I've heard you say this over and over and over again, over all of these years. What gets measured gets done. So what exactly should they measure? What do you recommend they should measure?
I love the fact that you teed up the measurement, Karen. And, that is the essence of success, is setting out what you're going to do and then measuring if, in fact, you did it. Now, I'd love to give everybody a clear answer and give them the 7 things to write down. Unfortunately, that's not possible because we have too many businesses that are operating in different ways. And so those things that get measured are unique to an industry and or a business. So it depends on the business, but I'm not going to just leave it at that. One of the questions that I would ask of a client would be, do your salespeople get their own leads? Are they responsible to go out and rustle up the business, or are they given leads? Because what we measure in those two situations would be very different from one another. But as an example, conversion rate would be something significantly important to measure, and I will even increase the significance of it. If we're providing leads, if the company's providing leads to the salespeople, we better understand and measure whether they're getting the appropriate conversion rate, salesperson by salesperson by salesperson. The other thing that I would talk to you, and you know how I am about high payoff activities, HPAs, the number of contacts they've made, the number of appointments they've made, the number of presentations they've made, the number of wins that they've recorded. Another category might be the goal achievement. Where are they with their goals and how are they progressing on their goals? Another topic that you need to wrestle down when you talk about measurement is managing the pipeline and the amount of touches. And, anybody who's heard me speak professionally before can tell you it takes 9 touches before they even know you exist. Are our sellers doing the appropriate touches? And then I'm going to close with practice, practice, practice. Measure whether your salespeople are practicing, because if they're not practicing inside, they're practicing on real deals. So I'm going to flip it back to you. When you talk about sales managers and leaders measuring metrics, which ones are most important for you? You've got a team of sellers.
That's right. So we get our clients in the door with their prospects for the first meeting. And one measurement that most people don't do is the percentage of first meetings which go to second meetings. The percent of first meetings which go to second meetings. In our world, 99.9% of the first meetings go to second meetings. If they don't, there was one of 3 problems from a diagnostic standpoint. Either first, it was never the right prospect to begin with, and that happens a lot. Second, the seller may not have created enough value in the meeting to warrant a second meeting in the eyes of the prospect. And third, and this one, Jack, is the biggest offender, you know it, it's they didn't ask for the second meeting.
Well, get this, Karen. I was on a coaching call this morning with a client, and they were celebrating their second week compared to the first week that their outbound sales force has been in the field. It's a new outbound sales force that they created. And they were celebrating the fact that they've gone from 10% second meetings to 20%. And you're talking about 99.9%.
Yeah, listen, guys, there's no reason why a first meeting shouldn't go to a second meeting if you hit those 3 factors. Another one that people don't measure that we measure is the percent of times you're facing a particular objection. So let's say 80% of the time your folks get an objection. The objection is we're not interested. Well, A, they might not be talking to the right prospects. That can affect that. And B, they may not be saying anything interesting. So what is the sales language that they're using to overcome the objection? in order to make sure they're getting to the next step. So if you're measuring the percent of time they're receiving a particular objection, you will know what you need to do with them. Is it role practice, as Jack says? Is it change of target? Is it change of message, so that you reduce the percent of times they're facing that? You talked about the percent of win. I like to take it one step further, especially since the pandemic, is what percent of deals which closed were the right deals? Because there are a lot of times people are closing deals and then management is like, well, it's not really a great deal. Well, why not? So let's measure that and make sure that the percent of deals which are the right deals is really high.
That's really, that's an awesome thing. We had that same discussion on that coach call with my client this morning, and I'm gonna utilize this medium right now for my own benefit. What if you were saddled with the situation that I just talked about, celebrating 20% going into the second meeting? What course corrections would you, as a leader, take on to help me up the percentage?
Yeah, so it's definitely looking for those three things. Is the prospect group the right prospect group? When we go into a company and we're working with them and we look at their prospect list compared with the identified right group of prospects, and that's if anybody has identified that recently. Most of the time, if people are working with the definition of a good prospect from 4 years ago, not what it is today. When we look at their current prospect list, usually 25% of the prospects on the list shouldn't be there. So that's a big offender. Are the prospect lists the right list? If your folks aren't establishing enough value during the meeting, give them some coaching on that. Tell them what the structure is for a good conversation. Help them identify what are not just any questions in the beginning, but high gain questions. That's what we call it. What's the path of dialogue? What are the closing questions they're going to ask? And by when are they asking that in the course of that meeting? They may need some coaching on that. Management, it's your responsibility to make sure they're getting what they need and that they practice in a safe environment and not, like Jack said, on your prospects.
You know, you just made me feel really good because we really spent a fair amount of time on our coach call today based upon those stats that we were measuring on, do we have the right prospect list? Because you can have all of the correct behaviors by your sellers and still be blowing it because you're fishing in a lake that has no fish in it.
Right, and that's a strategic aspect of sales. And not every phenomenal seller is phenomenal at strategy. And we're talking sales strategy, not marketing strategy. There's a little bit of a difference there. So if your folks are great sellers, but they're not great strategists, get some help by a strategist and refine the filters by which you have your prospect list defined. And then double check that every prospect on the list deserves your time and attention, and then make sure that the rest of the pieces are in place. It's a critically important piece. Usually when sales stall later in the sales process, after meeting number 2, after meeting number 3, after the proposal, the big offender is target. That's what we find.
Well, let me go back to your second point, though, and that was what's being said on the call and the quality and the right words and the right time and all of that type of thing. The only way the leader of the salespeople, what I tend to call the sales manager, the only way that person's going to be able to help their sellers with that type of stuff is if they are staying close to them. Are we ghosting calls? Are we riding shotgun? Are you out in the field with your salespeople? Not just anecdotally, but real belly to belly, side by side, because that's when you really get an understanding of what needs to be done.
Right. And if we go back to the very top of our 10 minutes, because we're reaching our 10 minutes and we're talking about what gets measured gets done, make sure that when you pick the metrics that are right for your business, you're utilizing your CRM and you have a cadence for reviewing the metrics so you can provide your people feedback and the help that they need. What did we miss, Jack? Bring it home.
The only thing that I would tell you, Karen, is do you have your people in the right role? And when I talk about are the people that you have in your sellers, are they in the right role? Are you looking for hunters or are you looking for farmers? Because I can't make a farmer into a hunter, and I don't know how to make a hunter into a farmer. What is the role of that salesperson to make sure that you got the right complement? And the other thing that I would say is that some sellers are much more effective face-to-face and others are more effective over the phone. What do you have, and do you have them in the right place?
Absolutely. And I'm going to add one more piece to that, is that within the world of hunters, there are different kinds of hunters. There are those who are great at going on the meetings and closing the sales. We call them the closers in our world, and others who are great, intuitively great, got it in their DNA to open up new relationships. Those are the openers. Not every great hunter who's a great closer is a great opener. Do you have door openers if you need door openers? That's one last piece. Of course, I had to say that as the chief door opener.
Oh, you know what? You just underscored why I end up sending so many of my clients over to you guys. No question.
Yeah, we're happy to help them. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Sales B12, and we look forward to seeing you again.